The current environment makes it all the more vital to have a close connection with your customers. Fortunately, with the advent of social media and social networks, it's now more realistic than ever before to establish, maintain, and nurture a one-to-one relationship with your customers. Social network and social media really provide one of the most exciting ways to get that tight connection with your customers. One-to-one marketing, one-to-one selling, and one-to-one customer service. But the question that always comes up when you start talking about social media is, how can you possibly do this to scale? Because the challenge is that you have thousands, maybe even millions of customers out there, and whether your business need is customer support or sales or measuring the effectiveness of marketing campaigns, you need to be able to filter through the vast amount of commentary to listen to what's really important that's being said online, to measure the conversations, and then go out and engage with those people online. You know, the difference with social media is that if you're a Dell or a Comcast or even some of the smaller brands, you might have 5,000 mentions about your products, your executives, and competitors every day. So the question people often wonder is, can they possibly staff a team that goes out and listens to all of that and then is able to effectively engage with that? That's where Webtrends social measurement comes in and what we will focus on today: listening, measuring, and engaging. Now I'm switching over my computer so we can look at Webtrends social measurement. Once I log in, I'm going to be looking at a bunch of graphs that I was already checking out earlier today. Today, we're going to close these down and start and talk a little bit about listening. The business challenge is, how do I get to the point where I can listen to what is being said in real time? In Webtrends social measurement, what I'm going to do is put together a dashboard. Let's say I'm a brand manager at my company. Let's say I work at General Motors. As a brand manager, I need to look at what's being said out there about my brand. What I'm pulling up on my screen now is a real-time widget we call the River of News. It incorporates anything that's mentioned in any of the channels out there, whether it's from blogs or forums, Twitter or friend feed or any video site. It's all going to flow into this River of News widget in real time as it's being said. Well, and so that's a lot to look at. That's the second part of the challenge of social media is it's one thing to be able to hear it all, but how do you scale? As you can see in the top left-hand corner of my dashboard here, I'm looking at nearly 104,000 posts in the last couple of days about General Motors. That's an issue. I can't put people against those kinds of numbers, and I can't scale staffing to follow up on mentions of that volume. This is where it all comes down to the numbers, right? And these numbers are not the web analytics numbers that you're accustomed to. This is the other part of what your customers are doing and saying about your brand unattached to your website. These are metrics like on various blog or forum posts. How many follows does a particular blogger have? How many people commented on it? What's the engagement level of the commenting community on it? Or how many views on a given video? The great thing about Webtrends social measurement is that it includes all the most important social media metrics that you can use to make business decisions and sort through the tens or hundreds or thousands of comments and get to the 500 that matter the most. So let's look at some social media metrics. First, I'll look at the vote count. And now what I have is, instead of just a list of 1,000 things that mention my keywords, these are the top most voted posts and comments about my brand on the internet. I might look at it from a different aspect, for example, Twitter followers, to help me understand who has the biggest broadcast network out there, basically the most heard voice on the internet. Or if I have videos, a good measure of their usefulness is the view count. These metrics let me get down to the level of, here's what's being said, and these are the conversations that matter the most. So that's where I need to prioritize my resources to get in and take part of those. Now, that's sort of a bottoms-up type of analysis, and it's good if I have a team and want to start to listen to what's being said out there in real time about my company and products or customer support. But what if I want to start at the top and aggregate all this up and learn who's the most influential about my brand or my campaign or my competitors, and then simply track them as a top-down approach? To do that, what I'd do is I'd create a new view just to track top influencers by brand, for example. So let me select my topic, General Motors brand. And it's as easy as that. I flip over to the analysis, and now I've got a widget called the Influence Viewer right here, tracking everything that's happened around my top influencers from my brand. The influencer column is listening to various blogs and Twitter accounts and YouTube people, and all the numbers over here are about the commenting activity and the viewership. All of these characteristics are scored by an initial weighting that we set up during the configuration of our topic profile. We can determine by business or group which social media metrics are more or less important to use so that we can rank the influence of the conversations. We can also stream in Compete.com data. Compete is a third-party service that estimates traffic on blogs and other internet sites. We aggregate all this up into a model that lets you start at the top and see, okay, so who is the most influential about my brand, and then determine how to prioritize my resources about that, whether that's about customer service or what they're saying about my campaigns or about a variety of different business needs. So that was a little bit on the listening part of our product. Now, getting into the meat of the analysis portion, how do I go from listening to the social conversation to measuring and analyzing what's going on? For example, I want to know what share of conversations are about me versus my competitors. I need to understand what are the most active channels about me on the internet. Is it really Twitter, or is it blogs or even YouTube? I need to know and understand this so that I can make proper business decisions. So let's look at a share of voice graph to track me and my competitors. Actually, before we dig into this, let's go and add another competitor to this analysis. Let's add BMW to this as well. So as I configure this, you can see how everything is quite easy to use and very much designed for self-service to do on your own without the help of any analyst type. I just added BMW here, and now BMW is on our chart. Now this is a real-time chart too, so as people are out there talking about the brands, you're actually going to see movement in these numbers and see the graph evolve with that conversation. Right, so back at GM as the brand manager. Let's take the perspective of trying to figure out what are the most active social media channels about me. To do that, we'll drill down here through General Motors, and we'll drill down by media type. Now, let me turn this into a bar chart because I prefer that for easier viewing. Everything here, by the way, is also exportable to Excel spreadsheets and other formats through our open API, so it's not just locked in the dashboard on the web. Well, let's see. Making sense of this data, micromedia is actually popular here. But actually, in the auto industry, blogs, as you can see here, still rule. So let's go a little deeper to understand that further. Let's split this out by language first. And I'll create a new widget here that lets me explore the blog post by language. And now let me do another one by country of origin. That will help me see where are these discussions taking place geographically. This type of slicing and dicing helps me prioritize to really understand what's going on out there across the globe about my brand. Also, of course, I want to know how am I trending versus my competitors? Or I might be interested to see how my buzz is trending for a particular campaign. So let's look at a topic trends graph to see how my brand versus my competitor's brand is doing. Here, I've got all sorts of stuff going on. There's a little bump here and here. Well, that's interesting to note. Let's take a look and see what is actually happening at the times of these bumps. Let me drill into this spike into what we call a conversation cloud. This is going to help me figure out in a very qualitative way, taking all of the conversations that were represented in that bump. The conversation cloud will show me the 50 most mentioned terms in all of those conversations. So I'm actually now discovering what's happening around my brand and what people are actually saying. The bigger the words, the more mentions there have been. So let's take a look and drill into this NASCAR term. I'm going to open a river of news. The river of news will show me in real time what people are saying. Now, let me sort here by the Twitter followers. That'll help me see who's got the broadest reach. And I can see here there's a person called Racing Times who's got the most followers across the internet. Now, I might want to follow up with this person, and that's going to bring me to the last thing that I want to talk about today, which is the engagement piece of the social media puzzle. There are a couple of challenges with engagement. One is just getting started with a listening piece, which we've already looked at. The second is about the analysis part. How do I sift through the noise and focus on what's really relevant? And the other part is I've got this team of people in my group or my organization that are listening in real time, and now I need them to go out and connect with the folks that are talking about my brand. Let's say I have a customer service specialist who needs to go out and help people to humanize the brand and make one-on-one connections as they hear what's being said. Well, how do you manage that so that all the people on the team don't hear the same thing at the same time and try and respond to the same person and then trip over each other in the attempt to be personalized? So right here in the River of News, just as from among several other interfaces in the product, I can use workflow mode. In workflow mode, I get actually into assigning the post to particular people. So this one from Racing Times, I'm actually going to assign that one to myself. And I'm going to categorize it. I'm going to put it down as a service complaint. And then I'm going to give it a high priority. And then maybe make some notes to myself on that. Whatever I do here in the workflow module is tracked in an audit trail and stored along with a particular comment in the system. This helps you manage a reporting infrastructure with all of the data and all of the numbers so that we keep tabs on this entire process of listening, measuring, and engaging so that I can send my team out to do the one-to-one marketing, the one-to-one support, and basically humanize my brand on the internet, getting out there and meeting the customers. Well, there are many more details to Webtrends social measurement that we could go into today, but what I really wanted to highlight is what I think is absolutely critical for success in today's marketplace, which is the listening, the measuring, and the engagement process. All of this is done in real time from a single enterprise listening platform. It's all self-serve, and as you can see, it's really all about the numbers to get out there in a scalable way that enables you to take advantage of what your customers are saying about you and your competitors.